Welcome to this video, the 9 steps to emotional mastery. What we're going to be looking at is what is emotional mastery, why would you want to achieve it, how is it going to benefit and transform your life, and how do you achieve it. Now, what we need to start with is looking at what is a definition of mastery and what is the definition of emotions. Mastery, according to the dictionary, is comprehensive knowledge or skill in a particular subject or activity, and complete control of something. Emotions, according to the dictionary, are a strong feeling, such as love, anger, or strong feelings in general. But what I've discovered over many years of exploration, of understanding what are emotions and what is their purpose, is that there is a lot more to emotions than just being labeled as a feeling. My own definition of emotions is that they are a felt sensation which are experienced energetically and or physically in the body in response to your internal or external environment. In other words, they are generated in response to either your internal or external environment. And I'll be explaining a little bit more what I mean by that in a moment. So emotional mastery then is the ability to manage and master your emotions so that you remain calm, relaxed, and joyful no matter what is going on in your life. So if you were to ask yourself right now, do I ever get emotionally disturbed? In other words, do I ever feel upset, hurt, disappointed, angry, afraid, sad, bored, lonely? These are types of emotions that we tend to experience. Do you ever experience these emotions? Remembering that the purpose of emotional mastery is to reach a place where you're no longer disturbed by what is happening in your life. And emotional mastery also allows us to stop stress and emotions building up inside to become unhappiness, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and even symptoms of chronic illness. Because there is a direct correlation between stress, emotions, and illness. And this is how I discovered how to heal myself from chronic fatigue and depression and many other health conditions. I discovered that my unresolved emotions lying unconscious inside of me were the culprit to why I couldn't get rid of my symptoms. And once I focused on clearing the emotions, the symptoms just disappeared. Emotional mastery is also the foundation for personal growth, which develops into self-realization and wisdom. So if you're on a path of personal development and you have a goal of reaching greater and greater levels of self-realization, learning how to manage and master emotions is absolutely essential. Now, one thing we have to remember is that we are a totality. We are a holistic being. What a lot of people tend to forget is that whatever is happening on any of these levels is simultaneously affecting all the other levels. Whatever is going on in our mind is affecting our body. Whatever is going on in our emotions is affecting our body. Whatever is happening to our energy is affecting everything. They all interrelate and overlap. And this is really important in terms of understanding health and happiness. So we are a totality of body, mind, spirit, energy, and emotions. And we need to pay attention to all these levels of our being if we want to enhance our health and happiness. Now, trapped emotional energy will create things like depression and anxiety and a myriad of other types of unhappiness. And a backlog of trapped emotional energy will eventually build up and create physical symptoms of chronic illness. Now, what is really interesting is it's not the emotions themselves which are the problem. Problems are created by how we do or don't manage our emotions. And most people have unconsciously trained themselves to bury, suppress, ignore, swallow, etc. their emotions. But as the saying goes, emotions buried alive never die. And the reason for that is that emotion, are a form of energy. And once energy is created, it can't be destroyed, but it can be transformed. So this is why it's so important to learn how to transform emotional energy, which is trapped inside of us. So do you know how to notice what you're feeling at any given time? And can you label any emotion inside of you at any given time? When I first start working with people, often they can have great difficulty in knowing what they're feeling and knowing how to label their emotions. And I was the same. I had no idea 30 years ago how to do this. Now it's as simple as saying my ABCs. And this is what we call emotional literacy. Because the problem is, if we don't know how to self-manage our emotions, we're going to find ourselves in the lower part of this diagram. We're going to find ourselves experiencing continuous shame, guilt, grief, fear, anger, anxiety, despair, hopelessness, blame, a whole heap of negative emotions which basically make our life a misery. Life is not enjoyable when we have a whole heap of emotions inside of us and we don't know how to get rid of them. And what we want to move towards is experiencing things like love, joy, trust, compassion, optimism, serenity. These are the emotions that we want to experience more of. But unless we know how to let go of the negative emotions, we're not going to experience more of the positive feelings. So in the Emotional Alchemy Academy, I have what I call the 9 pillars of health mastery, which are the 9 areas of life we need to address and master in order to have mastery over our total well-being. And part of this involves the 9 steps to emotional mastery. So let's look at these 9 steps of emotional mastery in more detail. Step 1 is always awareness. It's the awareness that we want to change. And without that awareness and decision and desire, nothing is going to change. And what we need to decide is that we want to learn more about emotional intelligence so that we can improve our happiness, health, and well-being. And once we've made that decision, we need to find the right resources to study. So once we take the step to start learning, we're going to explore a deeper comprehension and a deeper meaning about why emotions exist. And we're going to learn how to identify and label core emotions and understand their purpose. And we're going to learn about our multiple brains and also look at things like unmet emotional needs and how what happened to us in our childhood set up our emotional programming. Once we've got some essential theory under our belt, then we're going to move into practical application, and we're going to learn techniques for identifying and clearing, and that means self-clearing, negative emotions from our body-mind. And it's actually a lot easier than you may think. You just need the right strategies. Then we're also going to need to look at situations in our life which are triggering or generating negative emotions inside of us, which up until now we may not have been resolving. Because remember, every time an emotion is generated inside your body and it's not cleared, it stays there and it has its effects. So we're going to learn how to deal with other people. And in particular, this is very important if we're one of these people who tends to let people walk all over us, mistreat us, treat us unkindly or unfairly, or maybe we're afraid of speaking our feelings, expressing our feelings, we're afraid of saying what we need or want, we just hold everything inside, swallow our emotions, and then build up heaps and heaps of frustration and pent-up emotions. So this is a very important step to learn how to manage external situations. And in so doing, we're going to start learning that 99% of the time, whenever we're triggered in a current life situation, no matter what that situation is, whether it's feeling angry because somebody cut you off on the motorway, whether you're feeling angry because your boss is giving you too much work, or your partner is speaking rudely to you. No matter what the situation is, you're going to start seeing how 99% of your emotions were already inside of you, and the current situation is just re-triggering that emotion inside of you. And life is doing this because it wants you to clear that emotional energy. It's life's way of bringing your attention to this emotion which is inside of you, which maybe until this situation happened, that emotion was lying dormant. And now it's triggering it because it wants you to become aware of it, and it wants you to clear that energy. So this is what I call the surface and the deep. Then we're going to really have to delve into stress. Stress is one of the major causes of illness and unhappiness, and most people have no idea that it's not healthy to be stressed. So we're going to need to learn how to de-stress. And this involves a number of different approaches so that we de-stress internally and we also de-stress from external situations. Then we're going to have to look at our health. And we need to remember that if we have symptoms, it's highly likely that there are stress and emotions connected with those symptoms. And in order to fully clear the physical symptoms, or even the mind symptoms such as depression and anxiety, we're going to need to address our emotions. We're going to have to clear the emotions which are hiding beneath the symptoms. And this is emotional health. The next step is we're going to have to explore our mind and our consciousness and discover all the patterns of consciousness and patterns of thinking which are running in our mind, which are perpetuating stress and negative emotions. And finally, we're going to want to cultivate what we call virtuous energies or positive emotions. We actively need to cultivate things like love, compassion, trust, openness, gratitude, peace. They don't just appear by themselves. We need to cultivate them and grow them. So these are the 9 steps to emotional mastery. And once we go through this path of emotional mastery, we are going to transform our life. And we are going to feel completely different inside. And as a result of that, our life is going to transform. Our external world will transform because our external world is a mirror of our internal world. And that's how it works. That's how we change our life. We change our life by changing from the inside out. So to summarize, how do you achieve emotional mastery? Well, you take yourself through these 9 levels of emotional mastery, and you learn how to identify and self-clear any type of negative emotion, and you learn how to grow and cultivate positive, virtuous emotions. And of course, this takes the desire to want to do so. It takes ongoing practice, perseverance, dedication, and commitment. It's a lifetime endeavor, but the rewards are worth it. So if you'd like to learn more, here are a few recommended online programs. The Introduction to Emotional Mastery, which gives a comprehensive introduction to many different types of emotions. The 9 Pillars of Health Mastery, which is a free program which explains these 9 levels of health mastery and the 9 life areas that we need to address to improve our life, and the Emotional Alchemy levels 1 to 7, which go through those 9 steps of emotional mastery. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to seeing you in a program.